Welcome to Transforming and Thriving
with best friends Brooke, Stacy, and Nelia.
Podcast dedicated to women sharing their inspirational stories. Hey everyone, we're so excited to give back to our community. We're partnering with the Wellness and Prevention Center in South Orange County, an incredible group supporting youth and families with mental health services. They've just opened an Alcove Center in San Juan Capistrano, California, which is a safe space where young people between 12 to 25 years old can find support for their mental health, connect with peers, and get guidance with school or work. Here's how you can help. We'll be matching up to $1,000 in donations from our listeners. Every dollar goes directly to creating brighter futures for local youth. Check out the link in our show notes to donate. Follow WPCOC on Instagram and learn more at alcove.org. That's ALLCOVE.org. Together, we can make a real difference.
Hey there, everyone. We're so happy to be here for another episode. I'm Brooke. Today, we have the immense honor of speaking with an extraordinary woman, Patricia Wenskunas. Patricia is the founder and CEO of Crime Survivors Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting individuals and families impacted by violent crime. Her motivation stems from her own experience surviving a violent attack in 2002, which led her to use her voice and personal journey to help others move from victimhood to survivorship. Believing in the power of compassion, community, and hope, Patricia has worked behind the scenes to improve how victims are treated, including early advocacy around California's Marsy's Law. She continues to speak at schools, churches, community groups, and organizations offering encouragement and reminding others that even in the darkest moments, healing is possible. Guided by the belief that with faith, there is hope. She also reminds us that we are better and stronger together. We are so grateful to have her here today. Thank you, Patricia, for being here. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we look forward to learning more about your story and providing resources. And, you mentioned together, we're stronger together, and we truly believe that as well. So being able to be a resource for our listeners is one of our main missions.
Well, I just love the fact that you're saying transforming and thriving, because I really, truly do believe that we are better and stronger together. And I believe in surviving and thriving on this life journey. And I think that it's so impactful and is making such a difference.
I agree 100%. Thank you for that.
So we would love to just dive right in. Could you tell us a little bit about this major life event?
Yeah, on April 4th of 2002, my personal trainer came into my home, drugged me, wrapped my face in head and saran wrap, beat me black and blue, screaming that he was going to kill me and my son, which was 12 at the time. Life-changing, absolutely. I can think all these years later, and still I just don't understand how anybody would want to kill someone or kill people out in the community. And thank God I made a promise to God. And I know we're not supposed to make promises, but to me, with faith, there is hope. And I made a quick promise to God, like with every next breath I would live for community above self. Please just don't take my life and don't take my son away from me. And, sometimes I kind of feel like weird about that, because I think about all the people that were murdered that didn't get to have their next breath. It's sometimes survival guilt, I think, in a sense. And then at other times, I feel like I have a calling and God called me and I'm answering the call with a passion and a purpose and a gift in order to be able to take my personal experience and turn it around to help other victims and survivors and family members.
Wow, I literally immediately got the chills when you shared, and that is such an incredibly scary and difficult experience that you went through. And thank you for your bravery for sharing that. And you mentioned survivor's guilt, which I have heard of people experiencing when they go through such a significant trauma and they survive coming out of it. What was it like for you to go from feeling like a victim to finding that strength and becoming a survivor?
Well, I think it was, he was charged with deliberate premeditated attempted murder, burglary in the first degree, assault with a deadly weapon, and criminal threats. And through our legal system, he served approximately 120 days, 5 years anger management, and 5 years probation. And
Wow.
somewhere through that process, I just think I was uplifted to be able to feel like I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be his victim. I'm not going to live a victim's life. Even though I don't feel that being a victim is a bad thing in definition, because that's what the legal process refers to victims as.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I didn't wanna stay in my room and cry and sob and stare at the wall. I wanted to be able to be a mother, I wanted to be a friend, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted other victims to know that we don't have to walk this journey alone. And so I'm not defined by being a victim or victimization. I'm a survivor, a thriver, a mother, a grandmother, a community leader. I'm so much more than what happened to me on April 4th of 2002. And something came over me to just be able to, again, not only survive, but to thrive and to be able to pay it forward to help other victims and survivors.
Wow. Yeah. And that's so inspiring that you took such a horrific experience and really use that to help transform trauma into strength. And then this mission to help others is truly remarkable. I was wondering, would you mind sharing a little bit more before you got to that point? What were some of those darker moments, and were there resources at that time that kind of helped you to get to that survivorship?
I think the darkest moments was being in my bedroom, sobbing, staring at a wall, dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, not mothering my son, not being there for him when he needed it because I was so out of it. Like I couldn't work. I was just, it was such a dark feeling. I remember my friend saying to me when he saw me that he's like, I always knew you to have bluish green eyes. When I saw you, your eyes were black as if your soul had left your body.
Mm,
And that's how I absolutely felt, to be honest with you. Like I was a walking around as a shell and not even a person, not feeling anything. And so I think that that was the darkest time until I realized and heard my son in the other room saying, I wonder if my mom's ever going to be my mom again or if I'm going to have to be her mom.
mm,
And that's when I got up enough of strength to call and get a therapist. It took me about
mhm.
5 therapists before I found the right one. So I always tell people, don't give up. Keep finding the right ones out there for you.
Yes.
And I do believe that therapy can make all the difference. And I will say the therapist made a lot, incredible difference. The therapist, I think God, my faith, my place of worship. And I also think I have gotten a dog, and I think the dog made all the difference as well. And just being able to have some friends that were in my circle that didn't leave my side and was there to help me. I guess what I say is all those people helped me get out of the darkness and go into the light and yet still breathe here on earth. So I didn't go to heaven. I didn't go to any place else. I was still being able to be here, but because of such a great support team that was there to be able to listen, to hear, and support me when I needed it the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked a little bit about, this drive to help others, and it sounds like you created an organization. You founded Crime Survivors. Can you tell me a little bit, and our listeners a little bit, about the first steps and how that was part of your healing process?
Absolutely. I didn't want one other person to go through what I went through throughout my life and then throughout what happened to me on April 4th. I wanted to be able to say, you're not alone. Like,
Mm,
there's help, there's support, there's resources, but how are you going to find them? Because I didn't know how to find them. I just started looking and started researching and started going through the process. And I was like, gosh, nobody should have to walk this journey alone. And I want people to know that you can survive and that, yes, it might be a lifetime of thriving because it doesn't happen overnight.
mm,
Uh, and you will have moments the rest of your life. Like, I'm not the person that's going to say, oh, you're going to survive and thrive and you're going to move forward in your life and everything's going to be okay, because that's also not factual or truthful, in my opinion, because it could be a taste, a touch, a smell, a feel. Could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, and something might trigger or activate you. Doesn't mean you're not thriving, Of course, you're thriving, but you have moments after victimization and trauma, and that's okay to acknowledge and recognize. So, starting Crime Survivors and the Crime Survivors Resource Center was to be able to say to all victims of violent crime, survivors, family members, and loved ones that sometimes we forget about what they go through and their journey and their walk. I wanted to be able to bring awareness, prevention, advocacy, and healing throughout. And knowing that we cannot do it alone, nor should we do it alone. But if we're service providers and we collaborate and we partner together, we are better and stronger together in order to let victims and survivors and families know you are not alone. Nothing you did was your fault. No shame, no blame, no guilt. And whether you need counseling and therapy, whether you need a support group, whether you need food, whether you need clothing, whether you need a shelter, whether you need to relocate, whatever that may look like, we're here to help and support and guide and provide that.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I would love to know a little bit more about the resources. You kind of already started sharing, but what Survivors is all about, and the different services that are offered.
Absolutely. So, whether it's families of murder, survivors of attempted murder, rape, domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, elder abuse, human trafficking. And again, maybe it's a domestic violence victim that needs to get out of the house and needs to get into a shelter. Or if they need a hotel stay for a short stint before they can get into a shelter or get relocation, whether it's locally or out of state. Whether it's counseling and therapy or our support group, our for healing classes, self defense and safety classes. In this climate, maybe someone needs shampoo and cream rinse and laundry soap, or they need food, they need clothing, whether they need to get in touch with the Safe at Home program or they need to get a hold of a victim advocate locally in order to have help and support as a liaison at the court process or the hearing processes or the trial. We try not to duplicate services, so we work very closely with those victim advocates and we ensure that victims get in contact with the victim assistance programs in their local community as well. So, whatever they need, we also believe that we should not dictate or tell a victim what they need because even though you may have two rape victims, two domestic violence victims, two family members of murder, none of them are the same. They're similar, but yet uniquely different. So, one may need counseling and one may not want that. Some need help the first 24 hours and some don't reach out for help for 5 years. So we want to listen and hear each individual on where they're at, and we want to meet them as a trauma informed care method on what we can do to help and support them and also connect them to local resources so that we can do case management, wraparound services. We do a lot wrapped around the holidays because triggering and activation happens during the holidays. A lot of victims don't want to celebrate. And we want to let them know that it is okay to still celebrate
Mm.
anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, whatever it is. And if they don't want to celebrate, that's okay. We're there with them as well.
Well, it sounds like an incredible resource, and you've got these individualized services. And I love how you really touched on how you're listening to those individual needs and then making a plan based on those specifics. So, where are you guys located?
Yeah, so we're located in Orange County, California, and we do serve all of Southern California, but we do get people that contact us from Canada or Michigan or Alabama or Tennessee. And even though we're not located in those other states, we never just say we can't help you, goodbye. We always say, okay, here's a local family justice center, a local resource center, a local trauma recovery center. It could be a local victim assistance advocate that we try to connect them in their local area so that they can get the correct referrals, correct resources, so that they can also break the cycles of victimization and trauma to be able to get help and support.
Yeah. And do you know, and this might be a silly question, but if there are similar organizations in other states that you're aware of?
Of course, in the majority of all states, they do have a victim assistance program with victim advocates.
Okay.
Typically, they're through the district attorney's office in their local area. And then I would also say the majority of states do have family justice centers, resource centers, and other nonprofits, whether it's domestic violence shelters, rape crisis centers, child abuse locations that help with children. So, yes, I do believe they are in all other states, just uniquely different from what we're doing here.
Sure. Yeah. And, you mentioned the resources for the families as well. Maybe they weren't the direct victim. And you mentioned your son being there. What types of resources was he able to access during that time or support? Other than obviously you, a very strong and resilient human.
No, thank you. Well, sadly, there was not a lot of referrals or resources for him at the time, unfortunately. Looking back with everything I know now, I wish I would have known then what I know now, but sadly, that's not the case. But I always tell families don't forget the children that are still left behind. Don't forget your loved one, whether it's your significant other, whether it's your parents, whether it's your children, whether it's your relatives, because they are drastically affected by what happened to you as well. And if
Right.
it's children, whether it's a mentorship program, whether it's a camp, whether it's Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's, a place of worship, always make sure, especially in this climate, that you're also listening and hearing to the children that have also been affected by crime and victimization and trauma, because it is a long lasting effect. And it's one thing to have an adult be affected with their job, with their career, with their relationship. It's a whole nother thing when children don't know how to cope or deal or heal with those feelings and those emotions as well. So I do highly suggest counseling therapy for children, different group sessions, activities, sports. Get them involved and get them talking on their feelings and their emotions as well.
Very, very good advice. And, I know this is going back a little bit, but I wanted to ask, in regards to, you mentioned like people who have experienced trauma being triggered by a smell, a touch, a taste, something that can just bring it back for them. This is twofold. So then meanwhile, you mentioned the perpetrator of your incident didn't seem like he got much time as a consequence for what happened. In my opinion, based on what you shared, how does somebody deal with kind of these ongoing triggers, whether it's the five senses or the outcome of, maybe the perpetrator's consequence?
I always tell people to acknowledge and recognize your feelings and your emotions. And that individual has already taken so much away from you. Don't give them the opportunity to take away your future, your journey on thriving, your journey on surviving, your journey on what you want for your future. And it's not easy to do because sometimes you have the anger emotion, you have the fear emotion that happens. You have all of that. But you deserve to be happy and you deserve to be able to live a life of safety and protection and happiness. And so I think walking through it is just being able to let everybody else do them and you do you, no matter what it is, and find out what makes you happy and how you have to cope and deal and heal through those triggers and activation. And don't push them away. Like a lot of people just push it away, but they'll come back. And when it comes back even worse. I've seen
Mhm.
people get into drugs and to alcohol and to cutting and to shopping and to gambling and all these other kind of things that are only going to hurt you and your loved ones. It's not going to hurt the person that caused you the victimization and trauma in the first place. Uh,
Right.
and so for me, I always use as an example, now at the resource center, we distribute diapers and wipes every single month to victims and survivors. And every month, that pallet of diapers is delivered wrapped in saran wrap. And
Mm.
so every month I'm triggered and activated. And people are like, why do you not tell them to unwrap them before they deliver them so you don't have to deal with it? And I'm like, because I face that feeling and that emotion, knowing that he's no longer here to hurt me or cause me harm. And if
Mm.
I can help all those children with those diapers, then I'm taking that control back.
Yeah. Wow, so powerful, and it sounds like you have really used this to strengthen you and drive you. And, you mentioned earlier the support of like a therapist who I'm assuming kind of helped you also get to this place of facing those fears and moving through them. It's not something you're ever going to get over, right? Like it's still a part of you, but you're learning to live alongside it. And I love how you mentioned that taking your power back and not allowing that person to take any more from you than they already have. So those, although they may seem small, are very large steps in that way of just like facing the saran wrap on a daily basis or, weekly basis for you. Thank you for sharing that.
No, absolutely. And I also tell if any victims and survivors and family members are out there and they're listening, I always say to you, please don't take me wrong when I say this, but and you can let your family and friends know as well, with respect, of course, that most family and friends want you to go back to who you were before the trauma. And what I
Mm,
tell people is you need to inform and educate them that you will never go back to the person you were before the trauma. That
mm.
does not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It means you could actually even be a better person than what you were before the trauma and victimization if you choose to do that and you take control of yourself and your future to survive and thrive moving forward. But you can't go back to who you were before. Unfortunately, you're a different person now through the trauma. And that's not always a bad thing either.
Right. And that's such a good point and very helpful for listeners who have experienced some sort of trauma, or also for their partners or their other loved ones, that this is kind of something that you can expect and it's not necessarily a bad thing, or it can become an even better thing. So thank you for sharing that perspective for sure. I wanted to ask a little bit about, we mentioned in your bio you becoming an early advocate of Marcy's Law. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Marcy unfortunately was brutally murdered by her ex-boyfriend when she broke up with him, and he came and he shot and killed her. And then we tried to get legislation passed here in the state of California, and unfortunately our legislators wouldn't pass it. So Marcy's brother, Dr. Henry T. Nicholas, ended up putting over $6 million towards the ballot initiative here in the state of California, and it passed over 70 some percent in 2008, which now gives 17 rights to victims to be able to have their voices heard, to be able to get restitution, to be able to get their belongings back, to be treated with respect and dignity, to be able to not provide their address, to be able to support and participate in parole hearings. And previously, they never had those rights. And so in 2008, it passed here in California. Thanks to Dr. Henry T. Nicholas, he's also put millions and millions of dollars in other states in order to get it passed. And I want to say, in I think approximately 16 or more states, it's now passed. Of course, it is uniquely different in each state, but we want to make sure that victims know that you have a right. Your voice does matter. What happened to you does matter. You can participate in the court proceedings and you can give your testimonial and you can make sure that the district attorney knows that you want to be included in the process as well. And I think it's incredibly important for victims to know that they do have these rights.
Absolutely. That is such great information. Um,
Absolutely. So if anybody wants to get help or support, or maybe they want to volunteer, maybe they want to donate, whatever else that is, they can go to crimesurvivors.org. They can check out all of the who, what, and why on our website. They can also follow us on our social media pages that we have. They can also reach out to info@crimesurvivors.org, or they can also call 844-853-HOPE, which is 4673. So they again can reach out to crimesurvivors.org. All of our information is on our website. Again, if you're a victim, a survivor in need of help or support or guidance, reach out to us. If you're interested in volunteering or donating or contributing, please reach out to us as well. And I just want victims and survivors to know out there that you're not alone and that we hear you, we see you, we believe you, and we're here with you side by side.
that's wonderful. We'll put all of the information that you just shared in our show notes, the phone number that you shared as well. Well, before we head out, I wanted to see if there was any like final thoughts or advice that you have for victims out there and their families.
I think the best thing that I could say to anyone that has been victimized and that is on the journey to transform their life, to not only survive, but to thrive, is again that you're not alone. We see you, we hear you, we believe you, we're walking side by side with you. I cannot say that enough. And that you can. get through this. It's keeping in mind that what you went through is different than what you're surviving and thriving on your journey. And you're taking that control back. And we're here to help and support you. And I just wanna thank you all for the opportunity for me to come on and to be able to speak and to be able to share. And I am so grateful for our team here at the Crime Survivors Resource Center. I cannot do this alone. And it is because of all of the individuals that come to help and support our organization is that we're able to do what we do day in and day out.
Well, thank you for your kind words and all the information. And it is our mission to highlight amazing individuals and organizations who are all about helping people be the best that they can be and move through all the messiness of life and come out each day better and better. So I really appreciate you sharing this incredibly inspiring story and the journey and just the lessons that it taught you. I definitely feel very inspired by it and will absolutely be sharing these resources.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for all of the great work that you're doing.
Thank you. To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Transforming and Thriving. We'll be back with more inspiring stories on the first Monday of each month. Please follow us on your favorite podcast app and follow us on Instagram so you can be a part of this community and stay up to date with each episode. Please feel free to leave a review so that we can get your valuable feedback and other people can find these powerful stories. Check out our website as well at transformingandthriving.com. We're all in this crazy life together, so let's move through it together. See you there.